Good afternoon, and welcome to WVDM. You know what time it is. It's time for GA for Justice, the community activist, Miss Georgia Allen. How you doing this afternoon?
I am absolutely wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It is another Thursday, high noon. I'm so excited, so excited. And as always, this is Georgia Allen with GA for Just-Is.
Yes.
And as you all know, I love the Kwanzaa principles. So for the next 2 weeks, this week and next week, we're going to do UMOJA. So I'm going to try to spread Kwanzaa out throughout the rest of the year. So I'm going to do one for 2 weeks. And then when we get to December, we'll be back to Imani again. Okay, so let's get started.
Yes. Yes.
Let's get started and fired up and ready to work. Fired up. All right. So today's Kwanzaa principle, of course, is UMOJA-UNITY, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, the community, the nation, and the race. And that is critically important, especially this time of the year and all year long, is working on ways that we can get more united in order to get the work done for the best interests of our community, our family, our friends, and our future. Our topic today: your vote, your presence, participation, and your power. And as always, I always like to open and thank our wonderful host. He kind of makes sure that we have what we need when we need it, how we need it, where we need it every single solitary week. Mr. Henderson Vaughn, aka Captain 85, aka the Dream Maker, who has opened up the airways to bring our listening audience a conversation, just a simple conversation for information, a conversation for correction whenever necessary, as well as a conversation for transformation. And this is important. I also want to announce that Mr. Henderson Vaughn has this wonderful comic book that's out there. It's a book that just works with our young people to help stop the violence. And if ever there was a time that we need to stop the violence, that time is right now. I'm sure many of us heard about what happened down in Georgia, another high school, another shooting, another loss of lives. And we need to make sure that what we do in our respective communities bring about a difference for the better. And so, with that being said, I want to do a disclaimer. As most of you are aware, I have worked in civil rights and have been a community activist for decades. Therefore, the various positions that I may take are mine and mine alone. I do not speak on behalf of any groups or any organizations that I may be associated with, affiliated with, or a member of. So I just want to make sure that we get out that message. And again, today's topic is going to be about your presence, your participation, and your power. And it's your vote. It is your vote. And a lot of times we take our votes for granted. We always screaming and yelling about other people taking our votes for granted, when many of the times we are the ones who take our vote for granted. And today I just want to talk to you, just have a conversation with you about your vote is your presence. And when I say that, I want you to not be confused when it comes to your vote. Please do not confuse your presence with power. Because many times we are present at many tables. You can be in the room, you can be present at a table of authority, but you have not placed any type of plan, any type of agenda on that table that can be enacted. Therefore, you are simply present at the table of authority. That's all you are. And a lot of us, we run around to meetings and we sit down and we're like, oh man, I sat down with the mayor today. Oh man, the presence of the congressperson. Oh man, I was around the governor. And we get all excited. We get excited about being in the room with the delegates. We get excited about being in the room with state senators and U.S. senators. We get all excited. We even get excited about people in the community that we think might have some power.
Right.
But they don't necessarily have any real legitimate power. There's a difference now. There's an appearance of power and there is real power. There's a difference. So for those of you who are out there listening, and you may have known me for years and years and years, I began to understand power and presence, being in the room a lot better when I became the president of the NAACP. Because when I got into office, we had a city that had 2 Black people that were directors in the city of Virginia Beach. One was the director of the welfare department, and the other one was the director of the human resources department. So we had someone that was hiring and someone who was with, now it's called Department of Social Services or Human Services. Got all different names, but back in the olden days, it was called the welfare department, basically. And when we had those 2 people in position, of course, one had the authority to hire. But if he didn't have any help, if he didn't have a community surrounding him to push him to hire people in upper level positions, you may never see people in those upper level positions. So when you understand things like that, then you need to know how to leverage that power. You need to understand that just having power doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't use it for any type of good. Therefore, as the NAACP, we had to apply some pressure. So not only do we have to have presence in the room, we had to apply pressure to change how hiring practices was done. And those hiring practices could be at the, in our case, it was the convention center. Convention center never had anybody higher than an administrative assistant, a secretary, a front desk worker. Didn't have anybody like that until we came into office and we pressured them to hire someone that was in upper level management, one of the top 3 positions, like the head of the convention center or one of the second level convention center managers, and not someone who was in a lower capacity as a supervisor. Because a lot of times what the city of Virginia Beach used to do is they would hire people from our community and they may promote them to a supervisory position, but almost never promoted them higher than that. And so then they would do a move and move them over into another department as if they were promoting them, when it was a lateral move from one department to the next department to the next department. And they did this all the time. And so when I tell you presence does not mean power, it simply means that you're sitting at the table, but you're not making any real legitimate moves. So that's presence versus power. Now, there are also all of these people who are out here who identify their vote as being participation. You go out, you cast your ballot for the person of your choice or what have you. So you participated in the process. So now you're coming into the room of authority, and in some instances, some of these people, they never participate. They never exchange any information with the room. They never say to the room that we want to change outcomes in the room. They're just sitting in the room. So they're present. They may participate, but they're conversational. They're not changing any outcomes. They're not participating from a presence of authority. So in essence, you're still just present in the room. You're participating, but you're not participating in a manner that allows you to leverage the strength of who you are, to leverage the community that you come from. So we see that a lot. And we see that a lot in voting. We see people go to the poll and they participate in the process of voting, but they're the only one there. They didn't bring family or friends. They didn't pick up the phone and call nobody. So yes, they participated, but again, they didn't leverage the power they have for strength. And so what we want to do today is not just be present in the room, not just be participating in a conversational manner, because that's what we do a lot. We come into these rooms and our conversation is about, well, how are the children doing? Well, how's your family? Well, how's this going? And our participation is conversational, but it is not anything that strengthens our community. We don't have a conversation about policy. We don't have a conversation about legislation, but we are participating in that room with all of those people who have the power to make laws and policies to change outcomes. But our participation isn't furthering that effort. We're just friendly. We're just friendly, okay? So when you come into a room of authority and you never participate in a manner where you change outcomes in that room, that is not genuine participation. It is participating, but it's not genuine participation because you never leverage yourself to become more of a benefit. Because all these rooms that we go in, all these tables that we sit at, we should bring some benefit back to those that we represent or to those that we care about. We should bring some benefit back to them. So don't just be present in a room. Don't just participate with small talk. Make sure you leverage your presence and leverage your participation. Now, your vote is power. So if you're out here and you're voting, know your power. And as I shared earlier, a lot of us go to the polls and we vote. We're the only one there. We go down there and vote. We go back home. We haven't told mama, daddy, aunts, uncles, nobody else. Haven't picked up the phone, haven't made any calls, haven't knocked on any doors. And so we haven't leveraged the power that we genuinely have. We also haven't done the clusters. See, it's important that we recognize if you are a part of any groups, any organizations, be it your church, be it your social organizations or whatever, as you get to know people, if you know that they think similarly to the way you think, when it's time to vote, then vote as a block. And pick up the phone and say, okay, who else do you know that think like I think? Who else do you know that are concerned about these issues and would like to see these things change? Who else do you know is concerned about our school system and what books are in that school? Who else do you know who is concerned about whether or not there is Social Security for my generation, the next generation, the one following that one, and the one following that one? Who else do you know? Because what you want to do is you want to find some common interests, some common goals, and then you want to work collectively on those things. And when you vote, you want to make sure that you're voting in people who also care about some of the same things that you care about. So therefore, if you block vote to ensure that the people you want in office, then you need to make sure that you provide them with the agenda for your well-being. Because see, sometimes we vote for people that we want in office and they are good people, but we've never asked for anything. We block vote, we got them elected to office, but we never gave them an agenda for them to enact. So when you do that, guess what you just did? You reduce the power that you had because you got them across the finish line. You reduce the power you had because you voted in a block. You found other people that think like you, and you talk to these people who are running for office, and you said to them, look, I got 5,000 people I can bring to vote for you. I'm with this group. I'm with this organization. I'm with this, that, and these are the people that are putting you across the finish line. Now, when we get you across the finish line, these are the things we want to see take place. These are the policies we want to see enacted or policies that we want to change. Because keep in mind, a lot of times when people go into office, there are policies that have yet to be written, and there are policies that have already been enacted that need to be changed. So don't forget about policies that should be changed. Because a lot of times we do that. We're so busy focusing on, well, I want this and I want that. But we don't focus on what has already been written, already been stamped of approval, and things that we may see as a disadvantage, things that we may see that are harmful, and we don't bother to say to them, okay, I'm going to help you get into office, but I need you to change that policy. I need you to change that piece of legislation. I need you to do what it takes. And if you need to come back to me and ask me for some help, maybe I need to make some phone calls. Maybe I need to send some letters. So keep in mind, it's not as simple as asking your person to fix this item that's on your agenda. They will also need some assistance because they can't do it by themselves. And again, if you elect people to office and you don't provide them with an agenda, you just reduce your power. It is not enough to have power if you don't know how to use your power. Can I say that again?
Yeah.
It is not enough to have power if you don't know how to use that power. So it's important that we understand power. As Dr. King would say, power is the ability to make a big corporation like General Motors to say yes when it wants to say no. That's power. When General Motors didn't want to do what the civil rights movement people wanted, when they didn't want to hire Black people, when they didn't want to put them in positions other than the lowest of positions, and they knew that Black people would not be buying those Chevrolets, and they understood that they were going to stop that all over the whole entire country, when they understood how when people come together and push back against what's wrong, when they understood that they needed to change how they operated. So they may not have wanted to say yes. They may have wanted to say no. But when you have power, you force the people in position to say yes, even when they want to say no. Okay. Now, if you get excited about your voting rights and a change in an election process, a change in election system, and you waste your capital by putting too many people in the races and walk away without a win, you have wasted your power. Keep that in mind, because sometimes when we see changes, we actually believe that they are immediate. But no, they are changes, but change still takes time. Change takes a process. Change takes unity. Change takes loyalty. Change takes us coming together and putting in place a written plan to ensure that when we decide that we're going to push somebody and select someone, work with someone, help someone to get elected to office, that we're doing it in the right way, for the right reasons, and for lasting results. Because otherwise, you can end up losing when you should be winning. So if you're excited about the voting rights and changes in election systems, but then you burn your capital on tossing anybody and everybody in races, split votes all over the place, walk away without a win, you have wasted your power. Because if you're not willing to work together and you feel that you know it all, and you feel that you're smarter than the other guy over here, and what you know is far more important than what other people know, you diminish all power. You diminish all power. So it's critically important that as you're navigating this election cycle, as you're navigating the election system, it's important that you sit down together and you take a look at the landscape, because everything is not a snap of the finger. It is not a snap of the finger. Okay. Are you with me?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Okay. And I just want to just remind people again, today's topic is about your presence, your participation, and your power. Make sure that you're leveraging that power. Make sure that you're present in the room, but you're not just sitting in a chair. Make sure when you walk in and you participate, ask questions other than, well, how old are the kids now? Ask questions like, okay, I saw this policy getting ready to come up on the agenda for city council. What is your position on that policy? And then have that conversation about how you want them to vote versus how they say they're going to vote. If that is not the way you want them to vote, have that conversation with them. Okay? Let's have that conversation, because we need to have conversations with these people. Okay, I think we're coming up on 12:30, so it is time to have a few announcements, acknowledgments, and commemorations. Again, this month is Sickle Cell Anemia Awareness Month. It's the month of September, and we want to push that out because we know so many people who have family members who suffer from sickle cell anemia. I think Henderson said he has 2 children who have had the sickle cell trait and have had some problems with sickle cell anemia. So we want to make sure all month long we remind you, wherever you can participate, if you can donate blood, if you see an opportunity, please get out there and support sickle cell anemia. Remember when they used to have the phone calls every year, March of Dimes, and you'd have that phone call time, and people be on the phone calling and dialing for dollars. It was called, I think it was called Dialing for Dollars. And they started doing it with many of the different organizations about, donating. Check if you're not busy and you're listening. Of course, you can listen live. You can listen later. How about giving a couple of hours to sickle cell anemia and volunteering and say, hey, I'll dial for dollars? Or how about if there's an event that's taking place, say, hey, look, I'll be willing to go and participate in that event. So again, this month is Sickle Cell Anemia Awareness Month, the whole month of September. Also in the month of September, we want to acknowledge Ruby Bridges, whose birthday will be September the 8th, September 8th, which is in a few days, about 3 days from now. She was the first child to integrate an elementary school in New Orleans. And that school was called Williams Friends Elementary School, New Orleans. And so we don't want to forget this. She was born in 1954, and of course, the civil rights movement fought for integration of schools, and we still have the fight about whether or not integration of school was to our advantage or to our disadvantage. I think it was a combination of both, but it's also a combination on how you use the opportunities. You had access to materials at the integrated schools that you didn't necessarily have access to at the segregated schools. However, I think where we lost track, there's Miss Ruby Bridges, where we lost track was the importance of continuing our church schooling, continuing to make sure that our children heard from us and people that look like us. That's critically important. There's nothing wrong with affiliating and associating and assimilating, but don't ever lose the history and the jewel of where you came from. So we want to celebrate Ruby Bridges. And for all of those people who don't want to know anything about Black history, our history, they're constantly fussing about CRT, and they call it critical race theory. I call it country's real truth. Where we fell behind was when we stopped telling our children and our grandchildren and our babies our country's real truth, all of it. And so, with that being said, the next person I want to acknowledge is in memoriam is Mrs. Sybil Morial. She too was from New Orleans. Mrs. Sybil Morial passed away yesterday, September the 4th, 2024. She was the widow of Ernest Dutch Morial, the first Black mayor of New Orleans, and the mother of none other than Mark Morial, who also became a mayor, followed in his footsteps and became a mayor of New Orleans. But he's now the CEO, president CEO of the Urban League. So we don't want to forget these people. Again, I like to do acknowledgments, commemorations, and announcements. Announcements, acknowledgement, and commemorations. And then my final one is early voting starts in Virginia on September the 20th, 2024. And the NAACP is going to be doing a fantastic event. And that is, we're going to get together. There we go. We're going to get together and we're asking everybody to dress in white and go to the polls on September the 20th. It is a Friday. So if you're not off from work, you can still go because I believe it's open until 7 p.m. And following the voting or later on in the afternoon, we're asking people to join us for the after vote. It's going to be called a happy vote after hour, where you can enjoy food, entertainment, and the community will celebrate together. And that is going to be from 6 to 8 p.m. The location is 757 Events at the Ocean View at the Oceanfront Premier. So we're asking you to come and join with the NAACP on Friday, September the 20th. Go to early voting. Religious Affairs is encouraging our churches to make their vans available to take people to the polls. Those of you who have vehicles, SUVs, whatever, meet at one of the local churches who's providing the service of taking people to the polls, and volunteer your time to take some people to the polls. For our senior citizens, I encourage you to vote on September the 20th. By voting early, you don't have to worry about generally the heavy crowds. You can get in and get out sufficiently. Um, One of the things that we offer is we offer curbside voting. So if there are seniors who may not be seniors and others who may have some disability situations that prevent them from walking inside of the polling place, then a voting official can come out to your vehicle and allow you to vote directly from the vehicle. But we want to encourage as many people as possible to vote early because it is a presidential year, and on the ballot will be the president and vice president, which runs as a ticket. There will be the senators, the Congress people. In our city, there will be a mayor race. There will be city council member races. There will be sheriff races. There will be school board races. So there will be a number of races that's going to take place on November the 5th. However, you can vote early on September the 20th. So we want to encourage you, get out and vote. And as I tell people all the time, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. So we need you out there. We need you voting. We need you to make sure that you take this election very, very seriously. Again, the topic is your presence, your participation, and your power. So make sure you use that power. And again, we want to send our condolences to the family of Mrs. Sybil Mariel, and she is the mom of Mark Mariel, who runs the Urban League. And of course, she lost her husband years ago. He was only 60 years old when he passed away. So she lived to be 91 years old, one of our elders who is now our ancestor. So we are grateful for that civil rights family because they fought continuously for voting rights and other rights. The Mariel family was a strong advocate in the city of New Orleans to make changes there. All righty. So let's get back to our conversation. Whew. You got anything for me, Henderson?
I'm just listening today, after being talking all week.
I understand. This has been a busy time.
Yeah, but I will reiterate, send out the sympathy to all the school teachers and down in Georgia, whether the killing, 2 teachers and 2 students, and this is the problem that we face, but we got to do better by, talking to the young people and really talking to them, not talk. See, sometimes people get confused. They think they talking to the kids or the youth, but they talking at them. And they don't. And when you're talking at them, they're gonna brush you off because you didn't ask them anything. You're telling them, and they don't want to be dictated to. You got the question. You got to ask questions. Do you understand what I'm saying? But you got to be a conversational. It's just like when you talk about, I'm your friend. I'm your friend. Come on, we can smoke one together or drink a beer together. But when it comes to giving them the right choices, you got to talk to them in the same in that voice.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And not leaving them in the darkness. That's what I feel. That's the biggest problem because young people just want to be. They just want love. So you give it to them in the wrong way, and they thinking that's love, and that it's too late when they have to, face these tragedies in school. Then that becomes, even though they may not have got shot, all those students in their classes, they're going to have mental health issues.
Absolutely.
So it's a domino effect. So that's all I got to say.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. Yes, we definitely want to once again, remember those folks down in Georgia and the condolences. But I'll tell you, in America, we're continuing to send our prayers, and our prayers. Let's stop the shooting so we don't have to keep sending our prayers, because this has been going on way too long. And what is weird about this whole thing?
Yeah, and school ain't even been open but a day or two.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it hasn't been open a month yet.
Yeah.
Hasn't even been open one full month, and we're losing children. Even though Georgia schools open up, I don't think they're quite at 30 days yet.
Right.
They open up earlier than our schools, but I don't think they're quite at 30 days yet. And that's scary.
Yeah.
You expect your children to go off to school, learn, have some fun, and come back home safely.
Yeah.
That's what you expect. And when you hear of stuff like what took place in I think it's Windsor, Georgia, it's like, not again. And over again, we have to wake up and say, not again, not again. And so we need to make sure that our children are safe when they leave our homes and go off to these school systems. Okay, so we are coming back excited about voting. It is that time of the year.
Yeah.
And we can be as excited as we want about voting, but without real preparation and any real purpose or a real plan, we got a real problem. So we can be present in the room, we can participate, and we can have power. But if we're simply excited, if that's all we are, and we don't have any real preparation, we ain't got no real purpose, we ain't got no real plan, we got a real problem.
Yeah.
So let's talk about preparing to vote. When you prepare, it is just as important as voting itself. Preparation to go down to the polls is equally as important as voting itself. So when you prepare to vote, you should be familiar with not only the candidate that you support and that you care about the issues that they support. You also must be familiar with the candidates on both sides, not just on your side, okay? Because when you only know about your side and you don't know about the other side, how do you defend your positions? If you can't refute your opponent's position because you don't know anything about your opponent, you're ill prepared. You are ill prepared. So today's show is about voting. Your vote, your presence, your participation, your power. It is. It's all of those things. So we need to make sure that when you go to vote, that you're properly prepared to vote, that you check out these candidates that are running for office. What do they stand for? How, if they've been elected before, how have they voted on issues? Did they vote for the issues you care about, or did they vote against the issues that you care about? So you want to prepare yourself. It's the key. Preparation is the key. Also, planning is also extremely important. Do you have a plan not only for you, but for those around you to get to the polls and vote? If you have a neighbor who can't drive, have you checked with them about their voting? Okay. Also, one of the things I should have mentioned in preparing to vote, have you checked your status? It would be a shame to get all the way down to the poll to vote and you have not checked your status, get to the polling place and find out that they have removed you from the polling, removed you from the election system. They just removed your name. I just checked my status yesterday. Periodically, check your status. Make sure that one, you are registered to vote and they still have you on the rolls and they have not removed you. The other thing you want to check and see where your polling place is. Maybe they've had, again, redistricting comes every 10 years. So 2020, there was a lot of redistricting. There was redistricting on the local level as well as the state level, because the state redistricts the whole entire Commonwealth. So check, where's your polling place? And all. And so those are the things that you need to do when you prepare to vote. When you're planning, that's important as well. Have you talked with folks, not only folks that you know, but the folks that you don't know, and ask them, are you voting? Do you know there's an election? Because believe it or not, there are people who have decided to turn the tube off because they've been so frustrated with the type of information that comes across the tube that they don't even watch it.
Yeah.
They don't even watch it. And so, believe it or not, there are still people out here who may not even know that there's an election this year. So when you're planning, it's not just for you. It's also for your family, your friends, folks that you know, and folks that you may not know. Also, have you met with key players in the community to design a strong GOTV, or get out the vote plan, to make sure that folks are able to get to the polls? Be it carpooling, be it donating of vans, or plans designed for people who live in close proximity of a polling place where you have the power to just march to the polls. So you can just come up with the strategy and say, hey, all of us who live within walking distance of the poll, we're not going to even drive to the polls this year. We're going to go as a unit, as a group. We're going to dress alike. We're going to have a song that we sing, or we're going to pull it up on our phone and have a song. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. And we're going to play that song as we walk to the polls and play it as we come back from the polls. Things like that energizes people. But when you are caught on camera, because keep in mind, people are looking everywhere, you might go viral because they see all of these people marching to the polls. So make sure you're ready to march to the polls. Because, see, there is power in a united front of walking to the polls together. Because there was a time when we didn't have any other way to get to the polls except our feet. There was a time there we didn't have a car to take us to the polls. Many of our forefathers and mothers walked to the polls. They didn't have a car. They didn't have a driver. So that's important. Another thing, if you're planning to go to the polls, dress alike or similar. So if you decide that, you know what, all of us are wearing red, white, and blue. We're going to the poll and we're all going to wear red, white, and blue. All of us are going to wear white. All of us are going to have a heart on our chest, and that heart is going to say, we got this heart on our chest because this is our heartbeat. Voting is our heartbeat. It is our legacy, our lineage. Voting is our power, but voting is our future. So you want to make sure that you have things that push people to the polls, because when they see that, if it comes on TV or whatever, and a group over here that was like considering, well, maybe I will, maybe I won't, just seeing a collective group of people coming together, seeing a collective group of people wearing the same thing may energize another group of people to bring their children and have their children march into the polls with them. So you never know what's going to impact someone else. The other thing is make sure you have a purpose. You have a purpose for going to the polls. Why do you want to go to the polls? You want to ensure that your voting rights are protected, that they are upheld. You want to make sure that Social Security stays intact and any of the other safety nets are in place for those who are coming behind you. So voting should not be a selfish thing. Voting should be an in-community thing. It should be about how do we make this exciting enough so that those kids or the people who have been disengaged are now getting engaged to vote again. We want to make it so exciting. We want it to be joyful. Again, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. There's a quote by Angela Davis, and she says, "I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I'm now changing the things that I cannot accept." Well, I can't accept complacency. I can't accept the messages of, well, nothing ever happens for me when I vote. Are you sure? What is it that you wanted to happen? Ask the question. What was it that you wanted to happen that did not happen? And if they say, well, they didn't give enough money to the Black colleges and universities, and I have a child in the Black colleges and universities, tell them about the 60-some billion dollars that's been allocated to Black colleges and universities that had never been done before.
Hello.
Okay? So make sure you have an answer when someone comes to you and say, well, I'm concerned about all of these people who have been locked up in jail. Make sure you can tell them that under this administration, this is how many low-level crimes, persons who have committed low-level crimes have been released from jail. When someone says, well, I think Sister Kamala was too hard on people out in California, tell them about the Back on Track program that prevented so many young people from going to jail in the first place.
Yeah.
So there are a number of things that have taken place that have been a benefit to all of us. And whether they have been a benefit to us personally or to people that we don't even know, that changed lives, that got people that help young people get a GED, that help young people get a trade, that made them productive citizens versus lying in a juvenile detention system somewhere. Those are the things that you want to talk about. So as I close today, as I come to the end of the show, I just want to remind you, go vote. Voting is November the 5th, 2024. And we need to be all in this election. And for those of you who want to vote early voting is September the 20th, which is a Friday, 2024. And it's all day. I want to say it's 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And you can go online to the voters registrar's office to get that time. And I'll make sure I have it next week. I do apologize. But go online and see how long of a day you can vote. But early voting, I don't think lasts as long as regular voting. Regular voting is from 6 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. in the evening. And that is on the 5th. So with that said, I'm coming to a close today. Vote, 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 because we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Thank you. This is Georgia Allen signing off.
Once again, a great topic and a great show. Don't forget to share this link with other people on your social media platform, and you can also email it to them or better yet, just pick up the phone and call them and talk about it. And that way we know everybody's got the message. Thank you once again, Miss Georgia Allen, a community activist who's always prepared to do information for transformation. I try to remember that.
All righty.
I ain't stealing it. I ain't stealing it, but I did remember it. Until next week, you have a great weekend.
All right. Take care.